You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 47. 10 Feet of Green arrests Wang Ying. Songjiang attacks the Zhu family village. When Songjiang gave the orders for retreat, there soon arose from his men many cries, and when he inquired the reason, he was told that the roads were like a maze, and although they had retreated, they had all got back to where they started from. He then gave orders that they were to advance to those places where there were torches displayed. Very soon further cries were heard, and he was then informed that his men had tried to get to the lighted torches, but had found the road studded with bamboo spikes and iron pricks so that they could not advance. Songjiang was very much distressed and had no plans. Just then, however, a cry arose in the left wing of his armed men, "Shirshio has returned." Very soon Shirshio appeared and spoke to Songjiang, "Keep cool, sir. I know the road. Tell our men to follow the road, and when they come to White Poplars they must turn there, and not at any other place." Orders were given accordingly, and when the men had gone about 2 li they found themselves face to face with a large body of armed villagers. Songjiang asked Shirshio about the position. "They have a lamp as a signal," replied Shirshio. "Do you see that lamp among the trees? I have noticed that as we go eastward that lamp also moves eastward, and if we go westward the lamp moves in the same direction. That is evidently done to indicate our directions and movements," said Huarong. "How can we stop this movement of the lamp?" asked Songjiang. "That is quite easy," said Huarong. Running forward in front of the vanguard, he shot an arrow at the lamp and brought it down. The village guard, not seeing the lamp any longer, did not know where to go, and were soon in confusion. Songjiang gave orders for a speedy advance. Shortly there was a great uproar in front, and the torchlights were moving in all directions. Songjiang called a halt, and sent Shirshio to find out the position. He soon returned, and reported that the relief party from Liangshan Marsh had now arrived, and was attacking the village guard in front. Songjiang ordered an attack so that the village guard was soon between 2 fires. The villagers soon gave way and scattered. The united bandits now halted and encamped on some high ground to await the dawn. The roll was called, and they discovered that Huang Xian was missing. His men said that during the night attack they had got on the wrong road, and Huang Xian had been dragged off his horse by hooks from tall grass. Songjiang was very angry with the men because they had not duly reported this, and threatened to kill those responsible for this dereliction of duty. Yang Xiong tried to pacify Songjiang. "There are 3 villages in alliance here, but Li Ying's village is now free from that alliance. Why not go there and talk matters over with Li Ying?" Songjiang admitted that he had forgotten about Li Ying, and at once decided to go to see him. He left Lin Chong and Qin Ming in charge of the temporary camp. Songjiang took 3 other leaders and about 300 cavalry with him. Upon reaching the village they found the drawbridge raised and the gates closed. A drum was sounded on the tower over the gate. Songjiang called out, "I am Songjiang from Liangshan Marsh, and have come here only to pay a visit to your chief Li Ying." Du Xing was on the tower, and he recognized some of the leaders. He at once had the gate opened, and taking a boat came across the moat. Upon landing he saluted Songjiang, and was introduced by Huarong and Shirshio. Their object in visiting the village was explained, and Du Xing agreed to go back and report the matter to the chief, Li Ying. When he reached the village hall he found Li Ying seated on a bed with a blanket over his shoulders nursing his wound. When Du Xing had delivered his message, Li Ying replied, "Songjiang is a bandit of Liangshan Marsh, so I cannot agree to receive him here. I am above disloyalty, but if I saw him, people would suspect a double game. You can go back and tell him that I am sick, and as I cannot leave my bed I cannot meet him now, but may see him at some future date. I request him to take back his presents, as I cannot receive them." Du Xing returned and duly conveyed this message to Songjiang, who understood Li Ying's meaning. Du Xing then told Songjiang of the girl Hu San Niang, who was betrothed to Tiger's cub and was famous as a great warrior. She lived in the Hu family village and that was the place that Songjiang must be on guard against, as Li Ying would remain neutral on account of having been wounded and discourteously treated by the Zhu family village. The last named village had 2 gates, and to succeed he must attack both gates at the same time. To attack one gate only would lead to disaster. The roads near the front or main gate had been specially made to confuse strangers, but the clue was in following the poplar trees. Here Shirshio interrupted, but those poplar trees have all been cut down now, so that clue will be missing. Even if they have cut them down, there will still be the stumps left, replied Du Xing, so that there would be no difficulty in broad daylight. Songjiang thanked Du Xing for the information, and then rode back with his cavalry to the temporary camp. There the leaders had a conference, and heard the news. They all agreed to join in an attack on the Zhu family village. Li Kuei was very keen on again going in front of the attack, but Songjiang ordered him to stay behind, which rather upset Li Kuei, and he sat with head bowed down. Songjiang selected Ma Lin and 3 other leaders to accompany him in the vanguard. Dai Zong and 8 other leaders were to take men by the moat, while Lin Chong, Hua Rong, and 2 other leaders were to bring the reserves by 2 separate roads. After all the men had had their food, Songjiang started off displaying a large red flag with the character Shui, i.e., Commander-in-Chief. Upon reaching the Zhu family village, Songjiang halted his men, and noticed that over the gate were 2 white flags bearing the announcement, "We will fill up the lake and capture Chaogai. We will tear down the hill at Liangshan Marsh and seize Songjiang." Songjiang was very angry upon reading this, and swore, "If I do not raise this village to the ground, I will never go back to Liangshan Marsh." The other leaders were also angry. Songjiang waited until he saw that all his men had arrived, and that the 2 reserve bodies were there, and then gave the order for a general assault on the front gate. He then led part of his men to the other gate. The rear gate was strongly guarded. Approaching from the west, outside the village wall, was a large body of armed men who were shouting and making a great noise. Songjiang ordered Ma Lin and Deng Fei to take half the men and guard the gate, while he took the other half under Openg and Wang Ying to oppose the advancing force. As the force came round a small mound, it was seen that it consisted of about 30 horsemen under the command of a young girl, the 10 feet of green, who rode in front and carried a sword in each hand. This body was followed by about 500 armed men on foot. "I suppose this must be the powerful daughter of the Hu family we have heard so much about," said Songjiang. "Who is willing to meet her in single combat?" Wang Ying came forward and shouted, "I will go," and spurring his horse he dashed forward. Now this man had a weakness for women, and when he saw this girl his only desire was to make her his prisoner. Hu San Niang, the 10 feet of green, whipped her horse and rushed forward for a fight. She was very skillful with the sword, whereas Wang Ying was a superior spearman. They met, and after about 10 bouts Songjiang perceived that Wang Ying could not overcome the girl. Wang Ying had thought that he would seize her at once, and at first had only played with his spear. But when he realized that he could not take her easily, he began to use his extreme strength and skill, but found that she was nonplussed. The girl was quite well educated and intelligent. She thought, "This fellow is very crude, and treats me too lightly," so she attacked him very strongly. Wang Ying could not stand this, and he pulled his horse round to retreat. The girl was however too quick for him. Placing her sword in a rest, she raced her horse after Wang Ying, and seizing hold of him pulled him out of his saddle. The villagers rushed forward, and seizing him led him away as a prisoner. Openg, seeing this, galloped forward to try to save Wang Ying, but found himself in mortal combat with the girl. Openg was the son of a military officer, who had instructed him in the use of the lance, with which he was very skillful. Songjiang watched the fight with secret satisfaction. But in spite of his skill, Openg could not overcome the girl. He had met his equal. Deng Fei, considering the position critical, now rushed forward armed with an iron chain. Zhu, the dragon, in command of the Zhu family villagers, now rushed forward to assist Hu San Niang by capturing Songjiang, but was met by Ma Lu, with whom he fought. Seeing this, Deng Fei returned to protect Songjiang. Songjiang, seeing these 2 deadly combats, was nonplussed, but just then a detachment of horsemen came in view led by Qin Ming, who hearing the noise of combat had brought up the reserves. Songjiang called out, "Qin Ming, you take the place of Ma Lin in this fight." Now Qin Ming was very hasty, and was already irritated, because these people had arrested Huang Xian, who had been one of his pupils. Seizing his mace he whipped his horse, and rushed forward to attack Zhu, the dragon. Ma Lin seeing Qin Ming retired, and went off to try to rescue Wang Ying. The girl Hu San Niang, the 10 feet of green, seeing this movement left Peng, and rushed to attack Ma Linier. These two were armed with 2 swords each, and now there was a brilliant flash of steel as the 4 swords were lashed and thrust backwards and forwards. Songjiang could not distinguish any particular sword as they were so quickly crossed and withdrawn. Qin Ming and Dragon Zhu fought about 10 bouts without either gaining an advantage. There now came on the scene another combatant, drill instructor Luan Tingyu, who emerged from the village gate on horseback, armed with a lance and a heavy iron mace. Peng was free, and advanced to fight this new man. Luan Tingyu retreated, and Peng galloped after him. Songjiang saw in the distance a horseman approaching followed by about 500 men. He soon recognized him as Mu Hong. There was also another large body of men to the east of these who he saw were led by Yang Xiong and Shi Xiu. He also was pleased to see another body of men approaching in charge of Huarong. Songjiang gave orders for his men to fight a rearward action, but not to delay their retreat too much as it was getting dusk. Songjiang was in advance finding the proper road, and while by himself he found that Hu San Niang was chasing him to cut him off from his men. Not being a match for her, Songjiang retreated, and now there was a very speedy race between the two. Just as they reached a small hillock a man appeared who called out, "Why is that woman pursuing my elder brother?" He was none other than Li Kuei. The girl seeing this rescue party turned her horse towards a wood near at hand. Just then Lin Chong also appeared accompanied by about 10 horsemen. Lin Chong shouted, and the girl without hesitation galloped towards him waving her 2 swords. They fought for about 10 bouts, and then Lin Chong saw her weakness. He allowed her to strike at him with both swords, and warding off the blows with his spear he at the same moment dropped his spear, and seized hold of the girl with both hands. He held her firmly, and soon had her bound by his men with ropes. Songjiang issued an order for all the men to fall back to the place they had started from, and set Li Kuei to carry this order to all the leaders. It was now evening. Songjiang and Lin Chong with their men and prisoner soon reached the rendezvous. The villagers had all withdrawn into the village for the night. Songjiang summoned 4 sergeants and about 20 men, all mounted, and gave them instructions to take the girl Hu San Niang to Liangshan Marsh and hand her over in the custody of his father. Most of the leaders concluded from this that Songjiang wanted the girl for himself, but they said nothing. The following morning a scout came to the camp and reported that another body of about 500 men under the commander of Wu Yong was approaching. Songjiang went out of the camp to receive Wu Yong. Wu Yong had brought a large quantity of rations for the troops. Wu Yong said, "Chao Gai heard that you had not been successful yesterday, so he dispatched me with these men and rations to help you. How did the fight get along these days?" "That is a long story," replied Songjiang. He then explained what had taken place the previous day. He added that he had no plans, but that if he could not succeed in defeating those villagers and rescuing the 4 comrades he would prefer to die at that place instead of returning to Liangshan Marsh. He dared not face Chao Gai after being in such disgrace. Wu Yong laughed at this and said, "The Zhu family village ought of course to be defeated. Just now we have a fortunate opportunity, and we can succeed very soon." "But how can we defeat those people?" asked Songjiang surprisingly. Wu Yong still laughed and took his time to explain matters. Holding up 2 fingers he explained the position. A hand stretching forth to seize a cloud. Just helped a man enmeshed in net.